Today we're discussing Nightwing 87 and its use of the DeLuca effect. Hey comic fans, welcome back to Dangerous Comics. I'm your host, Dane Georges, and today we're looking at Nightwing number 87. Now this is a special issue of Nightwing. This is actually a really good series so far. It's a kind of more current series by DC. I know we've been looking at a little bit of older stuff on the channel recently, but I wanted to highlight a more current running series that I think is worth your time, worth checking out. Now this series has been by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. There has been other artists that have come in and done, the art duties, but the main kind of creative team on this book has been consistently Tom Taylor and Bruno. And so they've also worked together in the past. They did Injustice together, as well as a few other books like Suicide Squad. But they're a really good creative team together, and they have got a really good working relationship. But this issue I specifically wanted to highlight because it kind of has an interesting hook to it. This issue it's even highlighted right on the cover. It just highlights and uses the DeLuca effect. And so the DeLuca effect is an effect where you have a character moving through the page, and you'd see that passage of time where Nightwing is swinging from the back all the way to the foreground. And something you would see in like Spider-Man and other comic artists have definitely used it throughout the years, but it is credited to Gianni DeLuca, who was an Italian comic artist. He lived from 1927 to 1991. He's probably best known for series like Police Commissioner Spada, and he did the Shakespeare series as well. And in that, he adapted Hamlet, The Tempest, and Romeo and Juliet. And throughout that series, he did a lot of repeated characters moving throughout the frame, kind of like not relying on a grid or panel-to-panel storytelling, but rather using the whole spread and how a character would move through it, much like this cover. And so this issue is kind of just a gigantic homage, if you will, to the DeLuca effect. And so we get, I think this is always really funny when an ad kind of plays kind of strangely with the main comic, but it's just funny how Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dick Grayson are kind of back-to-back here. But so for the actual comic, throughout here, this is actually just one continual image. Like if you were to put 22 of these issues next to each other, you could get this whole kind of comic would be one gigantic image, which is a really interesting way to tell the story. And I think, with the comic medium, there's so much room for innovation and just like trying to tell stories in a new visual way. It's such a visual medium, and we don't need to be just doing like 9-panel grids, 6-panel grids. This page is very malleable, and even when comics move into a digital sphere, we're really not bound by this rectangle anymore. And it's interesting how we can tell different kind of stories with comics, and how comics are a great medium for that kind of storytelling. So, we get more of this. So the whole thing is just DeLuca effect galore. So starting with the cover, we get it. But then throughout this whole story, it's just Dick Grayson moving through the comic, and, just that repeated figure as you're just getting the full action. And so the story is that, Dick Grayson is walking, and he gets a call from Barbara Gordon letting him know that there's been a hit put out on him, and it's not been put out on Nightwing, it's been put out on Dick Grayson. And there's kind of like some complex continuity stuff here where it's Dick Grayson has inherited all of Bruce Wayne's former fortune, so there's like kind of a hit on him for the money, and kind of he's promised to use the money to make his town of Bloodhaven better. So there's a hit going out on him. He goes here, and then just right away we see that he's getting attacked by these guys in fedoras. And right here we get this call out. It's this whole street that kind of like the story is happening on is called DeLuca Street. So, heavy nod to what they're trying to do here. Amazing colors throughout here too. I don't know, I'm not super familiar with Adriano Lucas's work. I think they have worked a lot with Bruno Redondo. So, but a great team. I love just like how they've used the background colors, like they let that kind of silhouette be colored, but there's some beautiful colors going on here, and I think it really kind of helps highlight the actual action that you're supposed to be following. But so starts getting shot at. Dick Grayson goes down, climbs up the fire escape, changes into Nightwing, and then we continue the story as he just keeps moving. And it's just such great action and such great use of that locomotion of as he's swinging past people. There's so many great little notes. There's a who is Heartless. Heartless is a character, a villain throughout this Nightwing series. I love this biker dude that's on a moped. But there's a lot of really great details throughout in the foreground, background throughout this issue. And obviously with this kind of storytelling where you're really just letting the background kind of be a character, you got a lot of room to play with it. Here we turn, and in the foreground is the mystery. The Scooby-Doo's van. What is the Mystery Inc.'s van? I feel like it has a name. But so I like how we also get these cutaways into the building as he goes in. He's going into his apartment. When he goes in, there's already hitmen in there, and the big kind of hook, and this kind of becomes like a John Wick-esque story where now these hitmen, because they went to go to the apartment to find Dick Grayson, instead Dick Grayson wasn't there, and they found his dog, Haley. In this series, Nightwing got a dog. He named it after the Haley Circus, which he grew up at. Grew up in that Haley Circus. That's where his parents passed away. And then he also calls the dog Bitewing, because he's Nightwing, so his sidekick is Bitewing. But they kidnap the dog, and they run down and get into the van. So just kind of continuing that motion as he's now chasing after them to get the dog back, and that is also something that is going to make Batgirl very angry that they've kidnapped this dog, and now she's going to team up and help him as well. But I really love all the background characters and everything. I just get the feeling that these must be actual people that the artist knows that he's kind of drawing in here and stuff, but really cool. And I just think there's some really good depth in this comic, and they're really not relying on a lot of just pure black ink, really letting kind of the color set some of the stage and set some of the foreground background elements. We cut, and now they're kind of moving behind, and we get this fast food restaurant, this parking garage, and then into this homeless encampment, and that also becomes a element of the story later. So just kind of building up Bloodhaven as a character. That's the city that Nightwing operates in, Bloodhaven. And so we keep going. I love this little detail down here as these kids are playing with kind of Nightwing's weapons, idolizing him because he's the hero of the city. So we go over as he's crossing the bridge, and he's saying he's going to hold back. He waits for Batgirl to meet up with him, and they run over. She's going to take the high ground. He's going to take the low ground. We go over here, kind of pauses as he's about to bust through this door, and then breaks in. And this is probably one of my favorite spreads. And they kind of do the whole thing of the classic kind of DeLuca effect of where you kind of keep one character or one point of time kind of fully colored, and then the rest of it kind of gets faded in, so you kind of know what the most current one to the final one is. But really good motion in here, and I think there's some really good locomotion and action as he's throwing the sticks and they're bouncing up, and then he hits him, runs down, and there's enough time for him to start climbing the ladder and then catch it. So good. And also how he pulls this guy down, or Batgirl pulls this guy down, but really cool motion. And then they go up the stairs. They finally get this bad guy who's holding a gun to Nightwing's dog. Just how dare he? Batgirl says, "Are you threatening a puppy?" And Nightwing says, "That is cartoonishly evil." And so he's about to shoot the dog. He throws his stick. It's enough to knock it out of his hand, hit him in the face with a gun. But it's enough that he drops the dog out the window. Nightwing has to dive out, and in the nick of time catch it, while also shooting his little grappling hook and landing on the ground, or enough to swing him down. It's really good character stuff. I think Tom Taylor really is a great... I really like his writing style, and I really like his take on the Nightwing character, and just kind of taking it back to the roots. Nightwing's kind of gone up and down for his character arcs. Like the last story before this was it entailed Nightwing getting shot in the head and he forgot who he was and he was going by Rick Grayson. So this story has kind of been about taking him back to the core of the character. And so I really like the beginning of the issue started with this captioning as well. And I just think it captures the character really well. But it says, "My parents and I used to soar. Then I watched them fall. Since that day, I've tried to catch everyone." And so, he catches Haley right when she's about to fall, or Bitewing. And then, "Now I know I can do more. For this city, for its people, more than catch them when they're falling, I can help this city soar." And then swing him back up, and Batgirl catches up with him. And so we get the three of them together. It's just a really fun kind of like extended sequence, just a full action sequence as we go through. I do think that maybe this isn't the best format to really show off this connected story. I think this would have been a really cool way for them to maybe promote like a digital comic or somehow that we could like show this story in its full thing. Like the only way to really see this is if you had so many issues stacked up to each other. And I'm pretty sure the way that they released this digitally would be that you would just be like going page by page. You would like go, be clicking and then would go to the next spread. It's not like they built it to be this one big scroll. I was able to get this digitally, and I have all of the JPEGs, and I was able to load this into my Yak comic reader. I like this app a lot because it has different reading styles. You could do by page or you could do by spread. I have this one set up so we could just scroll, and I just wanted to kind of give us that view of maybe more the full intended look of so you can really appreciate how this kind of goes moment to moment. But really cool way that they even built in these page breaks and everything. But I think this really kind of highlights how well this works as we just get the full scroll from page to page, spread to spread. It's really interesting. I would love to see behind the scenes on how Bruno Redondo set up his working files and just what that looked like. Did he build this as one gigantic artboard, or was it? Yeah, I would love to see how he kind of kept this consistent, because I could see how this could be really difficult and how it could kind of get away from you a little bit. It's really cool. I do think that maybe this was a spread that had a little bit of dead space, but then when you're kind of doing the full scroll, it works really nice how it just bleeds into the next one. I like the break of the door. I think it works a lot better when you see it like this too. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of show this off a little bit in its full glory of the scroll, the full scroll, because when you're doing page to page, you're not really seeing just how intricate it is and how the backgrounds are lining up in that way. It's just really, really cool. So yeah, just a really interesting issue of a current comic, a series that I think that you guys should check out. But I really would like to see more current comics, taking some risks and trying to do unique stuff that we don't usually see in a comic. This is a format and a storytelling method with comics that we really are not bound to anything. We're really just bound by what you can draw and what the imagination can come up with. And I would really appreciate if you could check out some of my work as well. You can check out my site, danegeorges.com, where I've got my self-published comics. I've got Doom Skull, I have 3 issues self-published. I have a 4th in the works. But this is about an ex-supervillain that works in the grocery store with his minion Bag Boy. I've got some horror zines, Sleepless Sights and The Passenger, and was recently involved in The Revenge of Holozine, which is a horror anthology of Chicago comic artists. And then I also have X-Ray, which is a collection of my 4-panel comics. You can find all that at danegeorges.com or link in the description below. But thank you for stopping by, and please remember to read and think dangerously. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!